Winning in life often has very little to do with crossing a finish line. It's about the tribe around you, it's about dreaming big, it's about keeping true to yourself, it's about understanding what you can bring to this party, what you value within yourself, what you understand within yourself, and keep being determined to cross the finish line in your life, no matter where the goal is situated. So sometimes it's understanding, dream big, aim big, stay courageous even when you feel the world is against you. The finish line may look a little different than you were expecting, but those around you still find you inspiring and still find you courageous. I hope that you find that in yourself. And this is Nicole's story. All right. Thank you, Nicole, for joining us back here after your big adventure. And I put this little title to you, which is Winning in Life When the Scoreboard Says Otherwise. However, let's take you back because I want everyone to realize the mountain that you actually were doing leading up to this event. So you thought to yourself, I haven't swum 2 meters in a pool before, more or less. And I thought to myself, I'll swim 1900 meters and just kick it off. Let's remind everyone what sort of time frame you gave yourself to do that in. What was the time frame?
46 weeks.
46 weeks. Okay. 46 weeks to go from more or less zero. And don't forget, that's not a pool swim either in the end. That is that's into the big thing. All right. So half Ironman, what is that? Tell us about it.
So half Ironman, 1.9 kilometer swim, a 90k ride, and a half marathon after that, which is 21.1 kilometers.
Which for you, that's looking like very much the easy part. Because how many marathons have you done?
I've done, 5 or 6 half marathons and a full marathon.
Okay. Yep.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start. So this is the person who has to be super organized, fitting all that in. What's your normal routine? What's your routine for a day? Like, what would you normally do in a day?
During the prep for this?
During the prep, yeah.
Yeah. So normally, wake up, get the 2-year-old organized, whether that's at home or go to daycare. And then babysitter would come over, or she would go to daycare, and then I would go for my run or my ride, whatever was scheduled. And then that would be sort of mid-morning, and then lunchtime I would go for a swim, and then I'd come back, refuel, and then do mum stuff and work, and then rinse and repeat the next day. So yeah, it was definitely an adventure, to put it mildly. So if we could, do you want me to talk about the process?
Yeah, let's definitely talk about the process, because that'll be the interesting other part for that. When you set yourself a challenge, it's one thing you go, oh yeah, it's a big hill to climb, and then you get into the climb and you go, okay, it's a slightly bigger hill than I thought, and then you get a bit further into the climb, you think, well, that's a much bigger hill sometimes than I thought, and then at some point you go, okay, it's not too bad. Where did all that sit with you?
I never underestimated the size of the challenge that I took, and I always knew that it was a big undertaking.
Yep.
Oh God, I'm already getting emotional. So I always knew that the ride would be slow, because the course is meant to be one of the hardest courses in Ironman in Australia. So it's quite undulating. So I knew the bike would be slow, and I knew, even though running is my strong point, I knew that the run would be hard off the back of the other two. But I was never I never really focused too much on the running. I mean, obviously I was training for it, but the running was like, well, that's the end part, and that's the thing I know how to do. That's the thing I'm good at. So whatever happens, like I will get the distance done. That's not a problem. So it was always about the swim. And because, I always knew that the swim everything about the race hinged on the swim and what I did with it, whether I made the cutoffs, whether I didn't, whether I finished or whether I didn't, everything hinged on the swim. And because there was cutoff time, so basically the time starts from when I enter the water, or when an individual enters the water, and you've got an hour and 10 minutes to finish the swim. And then you've got 5.5 hours from that start point to be off the bike. And then you've got 8.5 hours to finish the whole thing. If you don't meet those individual points, and depending on where it all happens, you know, you either get disqualified or you get marked as not finished or DNF, or you get marked as the other one, I can't remember what the last one is called, where basically you get your, you know, you get to finish, but you don't get your results recorded, I guess. So my, should we talk about the race first, or should we talk about the lead up to it? Because I think there's both are worth talking about.
Yeah, which would you prefer to go?
Let's do it in chronological order.
Okay, let's do it that
way. So last time we spoke, I was still very much in the early stages of learning to swim. And, you know, I think I had done 25 meters at that point. And then I just before the new year, I managed to do my first complete lap, 50 meters, and did 2 of them. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I was expecting some kind of exponential growth to happen from there, but it just didn't happen. If anything, it went backwards, and all of a sudden I was struggling to do 50 again. And I was going, what is going on? And it was frustrating me, and I just couldn't. My coach kept saying to me, you've got the skills. And I was like, yeah, but why isn't it working? Why isn't it gelling? Why do I run out of puff, you know, 25 meters down the pool? And, you know, we kept trying to slow me down, but it still wasn't clicking. And then I had signed up to Triathlon Pink in April. Yeah, I don't remember, March. 7 weeks before the big race was Triathlon Pink. And that was a 600-meter swim in a pool, which was basically 300 meters zigzagging, jump out, run around, jump back in, do another 300. And then I think it was a 19K ride and a 5 or 6K run. And I thought that would be, I saw that as a very important stepping stone towards the big race, because it was like, you know, this will actually tell me where I'm at, how I'm feeling in race conditions, all that kind of stuff. In the lead up to that race, swimming still wasn't clicking, but I'm like, I will get through it however that looks like. I have to. And in the lead up to that race, I was in Sydney for work, and I was doing really long hours. We got back at 5 p.m. on the Saturday afternoon. I had to be at Stromlo at 6 o'clock the next morning. I was exhausted, under-fueled. Anyway, I was like, I've got to do this. This is very important. So anyway, I went out there, and my strategy for the swim was to basically do about 10 strokes freestyle, and then do 4 or 6 strokes breaststroke just to catch my breath, and then go again. So, and I also made a point of, you know, not running into the start, you know, so that I could keep my heart rate down. So I walked to the edge of the pool. I very gently put myself into the pool just so I could keep myself, you know, in a relaxed state and, you know, not rushing. And I got in, and within 10 meters of this swim, I was dying. I was like, oh, I started to go to breaststroke, and then I couldn't get back into freestyle. I just couldn't recover. And I got to the sort of getting to the end of the first lap, and I'm thinking, I really don't want to do this, but I'm going to have to deploy the strategy that I used back in 2017 when I really couldn't swim, and that was to waddle around the shallow end, right? So I would basically walk a third of every lap. But the pool at Stromlo is on the shallow end. It's 1.4 meters. I'm 1.6. So I can't walk around the shallow end. So as soon as I realized that, I was like, oh my God. So I kept swimming breaststroke. And by the end of the 100 meters, the second lap, I was basically holding onto the edge for dear life, gasping for air. And I'm thinking, what am I doing? And one of the girls came over and she said, are you okay? And I said, no. And she said, do you want to jump out? And I said, no. She said, okay, well, how about a pool noodle? And I very reluctantly took this pool noodle, which made me feel like about this small, because I'm like, I need a freaking pool noodle. This is ridiculous. And I don't know whether it was a help or a hindrance. And then the next 100 was hell, and I just wanted to get the hell out of the pool. And I was like, no, you are going to finish this. So I gritted my way through the first 300 meters. And then I got to the stairs, and the girl looked at me and she goes, are you okay? And I said, I'm really not. And she said, do you want to go around again? And I said, can I go on with the race if I don't? And she said, yes, you can. I said, I'm not going around again, because I genuinely feared that I would need rescuing if I went around again. So I got out of the pool and I ran out to the bike, and I did the bike, and the bike was fine. Like, it was there was a hill that we had to do 6 times, but I was like, well, I've got to do lots of hills in the big race, so this is good. And I finished and whatever, but I was pretty devastated when I got home, and I burst into tears, and Chris was like, okay, let's talk it through. And I said, how am I going to do 1.9 kilometers in 7 weeks when I couldn't do this morning? And I said, I don't want to give up.
Yep.
And he said, well, don't, but you're going to need to go every day. So I said, yep, I'm going to have to. So anyway, so the next day, I was still really tired, but I dragged my sorry ass to the pool and I couldn't do 25 meters. And I was thinking, this is ridiculous. Like, what do I need to do to make this happen? And by the end of that, I told myself I would just do 20 minutes because I was just exhausted, but I just needed that consistency now to, hopefully make it work. So by the end of the 20 minutes, I had done 125 meter, and I was like, all right, let's go home, rest up, we'll go again tomorrow. Next day I went in, I was consistently doing 25 meters, but I couldn't seem to get past it. And then by the end of the half hour that day, I had managed to do 150 meter lap, and I was like, all right, this still isn't great, but at least I'm moving forward. And then on the third day I went in, and my Zox band had just arrived, which said, you got this. So I was wearing my band that said, you got this. And I coincidentally picked up this tank top that said, if you give up, you didn't really want it. So I can't believe I'm getting this emotional already, and I'm not even talking about the race.
You're amazing.
There's a lot of big emotions with this event. So anyway, so I had the you got this band on. I happened to just coincidentally pick up this top that said, if you give up, you didn't really want it. And I went to the pool, and my mission for that day was to do 1,000 meters, whatever that looked like.
Yep.
And I told myself I would stop for 45 seconds at each end, and I would just get through, 1,000 meters and see how that went. And the first lap I actually did a complete 50. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I took my 45 seconds, and then I swam back, and I needed to do a little bit of breaststroke on the second lap. And then I needed a full minute at the bottom of that lap. And then I said, okay, I'm going to take 45 seconds at the top of each lap and a minute at the bottom of each lap and see what happens. And then on lap 3, I don't know what happened, but everything clicked. And all of a sudden, after all these months and all this frustration, I was suddenly swimming effortless 50-meter laps. And I was like, oh my God. And I was mentally committed to those time breaks because I wasn't sure what would happen, down the track, but I didn't need them. Like, I was good to go after 10 seconds each lap. So I was thinking, okay, this is really good. And then within a week after that, I had done 1.9 kilometers. And
wow.
and I was like, oh, I don't know what's just happened, but I'm just going to run with this because, oh my God, I now can swim. So we kept going, and my coach was like, trying to simulate the stress of going into the water and then calming down, and, everything was going really well. So I started feeling really good about the swim, and I tried to get some open water lessons. There's a guy in Sydney who does one-on-one swim, ocean swim lessons, but we just couldn't quite coordinate, and then it got too close to the race. But I had done continuous 1.9 kilometers a number of times. So I was feeling pretty good about the swim. And in fact, I was more concerned about the bike at this point than I was about the swim.
Yeah.
Because the thing was, like, I knew the bike would be slow. I knew it would take me, I had estimated that the bike would take me about 4 hours to 4 hours 15 to finish, right?
Okay.
Which is fine, but I knew the swim would be slow.
Yeah.
So if I took the whole 1 hour, 10 minutes to do the swim, that only left me 4 hours and 20 minutes to get out of the water, transition, get on the bike, and
okay, they're accumulating totals
and get the course done.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm going to have to haul ass out of the water and just go, because otherwise I'm going to run out of time. And about 3 weeks before the race, I got the first of 3 colds, and it only really, the main part of it only lasted 2 days, but the congestion just hung around. And I think there was a lot of subconscious stress at that point that was building, and my body just couldn't recover. So I was sleeping really badly. Like, my doctor put me on sleeping tablets, like heavy duty sleeping tablets, and I was still not sleeping. She put me on steroids to clear the congestion, and it didn't clear the congestion. Like, nothing was working. So the week that I had to do the last tri simulation, like a really important thing, I had a low grade fever. So I did, a really big session with a low-grade fever. Like I just wasn't recovering. And I kind of had recovered enough, I guess, leading into the trip, but I was still not 100%. What I didn't know the day before the race was that I had another cold coming, which is why I felt like I'd been hit by a bus, but we'll come back to that. So anyway, so we get to Port Macquarie and I'm feeling really good about the swim. So we get there on the Wednesday. Thursday morning, I go for a run, I go for a ride. We drove the bike course. I'm like, okay, there's a few decent hills, but it's okay. There's enough down to go with every up, so it'll be fine. And then on the Friday morning, there was an official practice swim. So you got people out in the water and they had the course set up. So I went for a swim and I was feeling really good about it because I had run past the water and I'm like, this water looks great. It was really calm. It was beautiful. I got in the water and I felt like I knew nothing. Like all of a sudden I couldn't swim. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? And I didn't realize until I spoke to some people later that we were swimming against the tide.
Oh, okay.
And the tide was stronger than I expected. So it was just really hard work. And there was and this is actually funny. I listened to our previous interview yesterday because I thought, oh, I wonder if there's anything that we talked about last time that is worth mentioning. And there was something. We laughed about the swim last time, and we laughed about how in the pool I've got things to hold on to, and we laughed about the little safety guys where I would go, can I please hang on? And that's exactly what happened. There was a little safety guy and I was like, can I please hang on for a minute? So the kayaker came over and I grabbed onto his kayak and he said, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm okay, I'm just a little overwhelmed. And he said, no worries. So we chatted for a few minutes, and then I said, okay, thank you very much, I've calmed down now, I'll go for a swim. And it still just felt really awful. And I kind of persevered for about 20 minutes and I had a bit of a splash around and I got out of the water and I was thinking, I am so in over my head at the moment. Like I was so overwhelmed with the whole thing of it. And I went home back to the apartment and I just burst into tears and I said to Chris, I don't know what I'm doing. This is crazy. I felt awful. It was so hard. It was, and I had been feeling really positive about the swim and it just felt impossible. And he said, okay, you've got 2 minutes to cry it out. Then you're going to pull yourself together. I'm going to drive you back down. You're going to have another go. And we did that and we went back down and I managed to catch the last 10 minutes of the practice swim. And the second time in was a little bit better, but still not great. And then I was planning on going back the next morning for the next official practice swim. But I woke up like I'd been hit by a bus, not realizing at the time that incoming was another cold.
Yep.
So I couldn't get out of bed. So I chose to rest, which I think was actually the better thing to do.
Yep.
But obviously I missed that extra opportunity to go for a swim. So I, spoke to my coach that day, tried to sort of, rationalize it all. And I thought, okay, well, I know I'm going to be against the tide on the way out, which is crap. I'd rather it was the other way around so I could settle into a groove, on the easiest thing, but it is what it is. I thought, okay, it's going to be hard. I just have to grit through it, get through those first few 100 meters. And then when I get to the turnaround, kilometer down is going to be much easier. And then hopefully by the time I get to the next turning point, I'll be into a, well-settled groove and it'll just happen. It'll be slow. It'll probably take me most of that allocated time, but it'll be okay. And then on the morning I get to transition and just side story, there's a couple of friends who I met through paragliding years and years and years ago, and they've been living in Canberra and they've been overseas for 3 years. And last time I saw them was just before they left. And I knew they were back in town, but I hadn't seen them because they'd only just come back. And so yeah, Lockie was doing the full Ironman, Ariane was doing the half, and just coincidentally, Ariane's bike was racked 2 bikes up from me. So I'm in transition.
Really? Wow.
And there they are. I was like, oh my God. And it was actually awesome because I was so nervous and just having her there, and she was because she was in the same wave as me for swimming. Yep. So, I was able to just stand at the start line with her and just talk crap, which really calmed me down. And I was like, all right, this will be good. And then I saw my coach and I burst into tears. So I just said, I just want to get in so that I can get out. I need to be going that way. So I just need to get this swim over and done with. And the thing started, it took a good half hour before our wave was in the water. And I had moved to the back of the wave because I didn't want to get trampled on. And I got in the water and I sort of I was nervous, but I was under control at that point. I had the mindset of, yes, it's going to be hard, but we're going to get through it. And I got in the water. I swam the first couple 100 meters. I don't even know actually how far I went before I had to stop and, gasping for air. And then I was sort of looking around, and everything just felt so enormous that morning. And I just couldn't, I think because, I was nervous, and we're going against the tide. I had to work harder, obviously, and I couldn't get my heart rate down. So I just couldn't get myself to sort of get into that relaxed state. And that was my rescue kayaker who came up. This little 14-year-old boy who was wise beyond his years and was my little hero in the water. Like, he was honestly one of the kindest, most encouraging, positive people I could have happened to come across. And he said to me, "Are you all right?" I said, "I just need to hold for a sec." He goes, "Yeah, of course." So I held onto his kayak, and he said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yep." I said, "I can swim 1.9 kilometers. I said, "But I have no experience in open water. I'm a little bit overwhelmed and can't get my heart rate down." I said, "I just need to pause." And he goes, "How about I kayak alongside you?" And I said, "Actually, that would be amazing." So this little kid kayaked alongside me. And so basically I would go for a swim, and then when I needed a break, I would stop, hold onto his kayak, and then keep going. And with every stretch that I did, it got longer and calmer, but it was still a very slow process. I was swimming towards it, and I can finally see the turnaround buoy, and I'm like, God, I just got to get to there. And I look at my watch, and I'd been in the water for 40 minutes at that point. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in so much trouble. It's like the Ironmen are going to be behind me. They're going to catch up to me any second. I'm in big trouble. Like, I need to get moving. So then by the time we get to the turnaround buoy, the pros coming through. So I had to wait for a gap in the swimmers to go across.
Yet again.
So my little 14-year-old savior told me when to go. So we scooted across, and then I was on my way back, and I was like, all right, let's go with the tide. Okay, time to pick things up a bit. So, I had calmed myself down, of course, because mentally I knew it was going to be easier. So I was already in a calmer state. And I started swimming back, and I could see I still had, my watch said that I had done 1,500 meters. I don't know how accurate that was, but I do think I had about 700 or 800 meters to go. And I could see the ramp of where the exit was, but I was still, still had a chunk to do. And I knew that I'd be majorly dodging the clock. Like, I didn't think I had a chance in hell of meeting the 1 hour, 10 minutes, but I wasn't going to give up, right? The other thing I should mention is on the start of it, I actually saw someone getting pulled out only a couple 100 meters into the swim. So obviously this person was struggling as well, and he pulled the pin, and he got taken out on a jet ski. There were so many times during that first chunk of the swim where I was like, this is ridiculous, just bail, this is stupid. And I was like, no, you got to keep going, because if you give up, you didn't really want it. So I stayed in, and I kept pushing, and then on the way back, I'm finally getting into a rhythm, and I'm finally getting calm, and I'm thinking, okay, this is the easy part, I can do this. And then I get a tap on the shoulder, and it was, there was a boat that had come across, and he said to me, "I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to pull you out." And I said, "Why?" He said the Ironman pros are hot on your heels, they're about to come through, they need you out of the water. And he goes, "Just climb on the boat and we'll have a chat." So they pulled me out onto the boat, and I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, "You're going to get a DNF, but you can keep going." And I cried all the way back, and I got out of the water. So it was like, the entry and the exit, and they sort of dropped me in between. And there was a girl called Mel who was kind of like, I don't know what her role was, but I kind of saw her as a 2IC kind of thing. And she gave me a big hug as I got out of the water. I was still crying. And then she goes, "You need to see the race director." So then, and he was lovely, but he was obviously, he had to be to the point because he was very busy. And he said, "I'm really sorry. We had to get you out because, blah, blah." And I said, "Yeah, I understand." And he said, "I'm going to issue you a DNF. But he said, if you want to continue," and he goes, because I think because I was under the 1 hour, 10 minutes at that point when they got me out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was an hour and two or something. Well, I wouldn't have made it around. So if they'd let me keep swimming, like, it would have probably taken me an hour and a half to get to the end. And to be honest, like if they'd let me do that, I would have been disqualified when I got out of the water, and that would have been the end of my day, which would have been just as devastating.
Yeah.
So they pulled me out, and they said, "Yep, you're going to get a DNF, but if you want to keep going, I'll let you onto the course."
Yep.
And said, "Yep, okay, I want to do that." So he let me back into the carpet where they exit the water, and I kept going. And I was still crying at this point, and I'm running up the red carpet, and all these people are cheering, and I'm thinking, why are you cheering? You don't know what's just happened. You're cheering for me, not knowing that I didn't finish that. And that was really hard to take, because, I mean, how would they know, right? They're just seeing someone running off. And I'm running, and my strategy had also been that, because I drink coffee in the morning, it's like, I'm going to pee in the last 100 meters in the river so that I can haul ass and get on the bike, right? But of course, I didn't get that opportunity because I got pulled out. So I'm running towards transition thinking, I got to get on the bike, I got to get the bike. And I'm like, hold on a second. Why am I running? They're not going to DNF me again.
Yeah. Yes.
So screw it. I'm going to go to the toilet. So I went to the loo. I think it was about 8 minutes in transition. So yeah, I went to the loo. I took my wetsuit off. I, got myself organized. I got on the bike, and off I went. But I should actually mention that when I woke up that morning, the nerves were so bad that I was feeling really nauseous, and I actually even had a very small vom. So I was struggling to actually take in all the nutrition that I needed.
Plus some crying now, which is good for, plus some crying now, which is bad for hydration as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got on the bike and I started riding, and mentally the first lap of the bike, so the first 45 Ks, was horrendous in terms of what my brain was doing. There was so much that I was fighting with myself. It was like, and the bike was hard. I was sick. So, it was hard. I wasn't feeling properly, so it was harder. I was devastated from being DNF'd, so it was harder. And it's like, trying to find that motivation to keep going when you've already been DNF'd and you've got another 111.1 kilometers to go is just...
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done, to be honest. Like, it was like mentally. So physically I knew I would get through it, but mentally it was a really hard thing. So I would on and off for the first 45 Ks, I would like burst into tears and be crying my eyes out while I'm riding, and then, stop and look around and go, actually, this is really pretty. And then, start again, and, and then I'm trying to take in as much nutrition as I can, but I couldn't stomach it. So I knew that I would be in trouble later, but I just had to keep going. So the first lap, there was lots of people out, of course, but they were mostly on their second lap at that point. All the guns were overtaking me.
Yeah.
And then I finished, plus all these people who had been following me, including people that were on the ground there, like my coach and my husband, were all so confused because the DNF came up next to my name, but they had no idea where I was. But then my times were still taking a lot.
Oh, right. So yeah.
And then Chris saw me ride past, because we were actually staying right on course. And then he rang my coach and he goes, well, she's on course because I just saw her ride past. So she's still out there. And my times were clicking at every checkpoint, but I wasn't getting official splits.
Yeah.
So it was a bit confusing for everyone. And so anyway, I finished the first lap. And one of the things I had said to myself in the first lap was like, just do one lap and be done with it. Just, finish the lap and then just bail. This is stupid. Like, why are we doing this? And I was like, no, you didn't train your ass off for months to do one lap off the bike just because you got DNF'd. You're going to bloody see this through, or you're going to hate yourself. But there was a lot of sort of internal talk that happened to be able to continue. And I got on the second lap, and the second lap was very lonely at the back. And for a lot of the second lap, I thought that I was the last person on the bike. But once I turned around and, I was on my way back, there was I think 7 or 8 people still behind me.
Yep.
The interesting thing was that the guy who won the full Ironman, who got in the water half an hour after I did, he swam 3.8 kilometers and did 135 kilometers on the bike before he joined the lap that we were on. So they had we went left out of transition and had to do 2 laps, 2 southern laps. They went right out of transition and did 135 kilometers here, and then did the last 45
then that
here.
one. Yep.
Yeah. So I was halfway back on my second lap, and I saw him drop in on the other side. Towards the end of that lap, he overtook me.
Wow.
And then ran his full marathon faster than I ran my half. It was quite impressive to watch. But then, so where were we? So we finished the second lap. At that point, I'm getting fairly depleted. I haven't eaten or drunk anywhere near enough. And I start running. And so I had to do 2 laps of the run.
What sort of time of day is this now?
Oh, that's a good question. I've been an hour. So it took me 4 hours, 23 minutes on the bike, 5.5 hours. Started at 6:45. So what does that make it? About close to 1 p.m.
And how much would you have slept the night before?
Maybe 5 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Maybe. But it wasn't good sleep. Like I hadn't slept
plus
for 3 weeks.
You got your
plus really sick, plus
second lot of coals and
plus so started running. The first 10 kilometers were okay. I would walk past the aid stations, but then run. And then I hit the wall at about 2 kilometers before the turnaround. So around the sort of 8.5 kilometer mark, I hit the wall really bad. And I started walking, and I met this other girl who was on her second lap, but she had hit the wall for different reasons. Her body was just, her legs were just failing her at that point. And she and I ended up doing a lot of run walking together for a few kilometers. And it was actually really nice because we just talked shit the whole way through. Interestingly, she was predominantly a swimmer, and she told me that she found the swim really hard.
Oh, okay.
And I met a few swimmers who talked about how they found the swim hard. And I later found out that the rain, because we had a lot of rain leading into it, apparently the rain makes the tides more ferocious.
It's stronger, right? Okay.
So it's stronger. So So I thought if strong swimmers find this hard, then what chance have I got? So then I hit the wall, and I ended up walking most of the last 10 kilometers. And again, it was like, I still had lots of thoughts of just pack it in. I was like, no, you're just going to finish this. Like, it's going to happen. And then, got to the finish line. But there was a lot of, like a lot of the things that I kind of went through on my way was, I don't deserve to be on the red carpet. I don't deserve a finisher medal. I don't deserve to be seen as finishing because I haven't. So it was really hard mentally. And then I crossed the finish line, and I just burst into tears. And the lady who looked after me, because they sort of take you off the finish line and, take your timing chip off and make sure you're okay and everything, and send you into recovery. And I was bawling my eyes out. And she said, is this emotions? And I said, oh, it's emotions. I said, I got DNF'd in the water, blah, 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 blah. And I don't deserve this. And she said, sorry. She said, yes, you do. She said, because you went on and you finished it. She said, you have no idea how many timing chips I've collected today from people who did finish, who either, had problem with their gear, or they chose not to finish, or they couldn't see it through. She said, you did it. You went through and you finished it. So you absolutely deserve the medal, but it was so hard to see that at the time.
Yep.
And and I had a lot of people messaging me. So, as you saw, I put up a post saying what happened. And I think I was trying to not have a negative connotation to it, but obviously I was pretty disappointed. And I was very overwhelmed with all the support that I got of people telling me how awesome it was. And at the time I couldn't see that. I was like, why is this awesome? I failed. And it probably took a week or two before I could actually step back and see it for what it was and go, actually, that was awesome. What I did was awesome, because I did. I picked myself up after being DNF'd, and I continued. I had the courage to fail.
Yeah, it does take a little while to feel, and it's amazing how much kindness you felt you had throughout that event, like from people that you don't know, don't expect, that that actually gave you that kindness and that encouragement in those moments.
But even running, you know, the full, like I had maybe 3 or 4 people behind me on the run.
Yeah.
But you know, when I started the run, it was mostly half Ironman finishing, whereas by the time I was on my second lap, it was full Ironman starting.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And the amazing, because we were on the same course, we did 2 laps, they did 4 laps. The amazing thing was I found, like, you know, the Ironman and, like, you know, top of the field Ironman, not pros, but still top of the field Ironman and women were running past me. Like, it was obvious that I was in the hurt locker at that point. And they were running past me, encouraging me to keep going.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's so lovely.
Just amazing. And just to get that support, like that helped me keep going as well, because, you know, there were so many points where I could just go, I'm done, and just walk off and go meet my husband and my daughter, you know, like it was just the mental battle to keep going was massive. But I was like, the only thing, well, there was 2 things I kept telling myself was, like, you know, you trained your ass off for months for this, you sacrificed so much, you didn't do that to walk off because it's gotten hard. You know, like that's not why you did it. And, you know, I knew that I would hate myself if I did pull the pin. It's like, I have to see this through. I've had the opportunity to stay on course. I've got to take that.
Yep. Yeah.
So and it was probably like a week or 2 after we sort of had a chance to catch my breath and look at it all and go, that was actually pretty awesome. It was pretty magic, and it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't the result that I wanted, but let's be realistic about this. What open water experience did I have? Nothing. How much swimming experience did I have? 6 weeks, because that's when it came together for me, 6 weeks before the race. So it's like, you know, yes, it would have been nice to have, it would have been very nice to be able to pull it off and go, yeah, look at that. I couldn't swim and now I did to 1.9 kilometers, but, you know.
That was only the second time you'd worn your wetsuit, was it? Oh, you'd probably in open water,
Yeah, in open water, but I had worn it a few times. I was very comfortable in the wetsuit. That was never an issue. It was just I think had we been, sorry, I need to blow my nose. Too much crying. I think, had we been going with the tide to start with, I would have had a better chance, because it would have been an easier swim to find my rhythm.
Yep.
So by the time we turned around, even though it would have been harder, I would have been relaxed and in a rhythm. So I think that was probably not the best option for me, but, you know, you can't change nature, can you?
No, apparently not.
Oh, sure. Sorry, Nick. I know you'd rather have it the other way. We'll just switch the tides around.
Just for this 24-hour period.
Just for this 24-hour period.
So where does it sit now?
Where does it sit now? It sits as a really amazing experience that I learned a lot from.
Yep.
It sits as unfinished business.
Ooh. To be continued.
There will be more. I have to make peace with it. I have to go back and do it properly. So I don't
that
necessarily
particular event as well. Okay.
No. So I don't need to go back to Port Macquarie. Yep. So the focus at the moment is on running and on strength training, and just to rebuild my strength, and obviously continue my swimming, refine my technique, get some open water experience.
Yep.
I'm not going to do any triathlons this year. It's just going to be focus on building everything. Next year I'm probably going to look at Husky at the start of the year and do thing there, depending on how my open water swimming is going. And then I'm looking at either September or October next year. The 2 events that I've sort of marked as possibles are Western Sydney half Ironman.
Oh yeah.
That one is completely flat in the ride and the run, and it's also a man-made lake for the swim. And that would be nice. However, I feel like I need to accomplish the open water swim.
You have to defeat nature.
So, hey?
You have to defeat nature.
Yeah, I have to defeat nature. So I have to prove to myself that I can actually do that. So the other one I'm looking at is Melbourne, which I think is October.
Yep.
And that one, again, the ride and the run is fairly flat, but the swim is in the bay. So I will have,
that will have that.
And salt water also feels a little bit nicer than man-made lake water.
Yep.
So yeah, so it'll be one of those two, just depending on how my swimming is going. But I need to go back and
do the thing,
finish it properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do the thing, because even though I have a finisher medal and towel and all that jazz, and there's a photo of me in agony crossing the finish line.
That was a good photo.
I finished it, but I finished it, but I didn't finish it. So I need to go back and do it properly. Yeah.
So the wash up for the body.
It's been, I was quite burnt out.
Yeah.
So it's only really been this week that I feel like I can go for a run and feel good doing it. I only started. Sorry.
How long are we now? 3-4 weeks.
4 weeks, I think. Almost at the end of the 4th week.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it took, the first 3 weeks was massive burnout, physically, mentally, emotionally, just massive burnout, to the point where I was like, I don't want to do the rest of my races this year. I've only got 2 races to do, but I was like, I don't want to do them. I just don't want to do anything. I just don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to stop running, obviously. I just don't want to, I don't want to race. And it's only been this week that I was like, no, actually, I do want to race.
Where's an entry for?
But yeah, it was just a little blip in the system. But yeah, it was it's been a massive burnout, and it was, it was such a big task that I think I couldn't not feel burnt out afterwards. Like, there was, had I not been learning to swim and have that sort of pressure, I may have been in a better state. Had I not been DNF'd and had that mental anguish for the race, maybe I'd been in a better state. Chris actually asked me if I thought that making it public put more pressure on myself, and I said not really, because like I had actually said to myself that I would give myself until 2 weeks before the event to decide on whether I was going to see it through or not. Like, obviously I wanted to, but if my swimming hadn't clicked, there's no way
that was your cutoff point. So
but my cutoff point was 2 weeks before, and I would see where I was at that point, and then decide whether I was going to do it or not. And there was lots of times during the training where I thought maybe I should pull the pin on this one and do Western Sydney in September. It'll give me more time to get my swimming stronger. But I was like, no, like, we're not at that point yet. Let's just keep going, and we'll see where we land. But it was also interesting, the things that you kind of prepare for in your mind that then kind of, that are so minor, but then put a bit of a, how do I say this? Like, you have to rework your brain a little bit. Like, for example, I had said to myself, okay, I'm going to have a gel before I go into the water. And then when I come out of the water, I'm going to have a banana before I get on the bike. And then, just because I wanted to have some solid food in between. And I went to the shops to get a banana, and the bananas were like terrible. I'm like, I can't eat that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I didn't have a banana. So all of a sudden I had to take another gel, and which is no big deal. But, mentally I was like, I don't have my banana.
Don't have my banana.
Don't have my banana. And then I had, because my band that said, you got this, that had become quite loose because I'd been wearing it nonstop for 7 weeks. And I had bought another one that was tighter. And also I had a second one that said nothing is impossible. And I was planning on wearing both of them on the day, and I pack them, and somewhere between getting to Port Macquarie and race day, they disappeared into the abyss of the apartment. I still haven't found them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But even that was like, I don't have my bands.
Yes.
I don't have my bands. I don't have my bands, and I need my bands. Like, they wouldn't have changed anything.
Yeah, but it's funny, those little things that that get you all, where's my bands? Where's my bands? Where's the bands?
I don't have them. And I still had the one that was loose. I still wore the you got this band, but I didn't have the nothing is impossible. And it's just the little things that your brain then plays tricks with, because it's like, well, it was supposed to be like this. I had everything planned out, like everything was meticulously organized and planned, and now I've got to change my plan. I'm not sure I'm okay with it.
I thought I was controlling the things I could control, and now the things I thought I could control are not there. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, the forecast was for heaps of rain on race day.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that.
So I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. But all I wanted was to set up when it wasn't raining. I mean, everything was drenched and muddy, but it's like, I just want to get to transition without having to deal with the rain while I'm setting up. And it was dry on the morning. Actually, we copped some rain on the bike for about an hour, but it wasn't particularly heavy. And then the sun came out, I was like, go away. Because it was too hot.
All hot and steamy.
Stay cloudy, that's better.
So the other really interesting thing was, you know, when you talk about with Chris, you know, he said, you know, you've got your 2 minutes, have a good blubber, have a good whale, have a good wallow, and then get back up. Like, that's such a, like, you know, when you know each other like that, you know, so do you let someone have a stay there, or do you just demand, like, there's obviously, he knows you well like that to say, okay, you've done your time, now get back up. Like, who else really read you well during that sort of time that go, yep, that's what I need to hear?
Only him.
Okay. Yep. That's fine though. Like, that's isn't he a wonderful man?
But no one else really got to see the vulnerability the way he did.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's important. Yeah. That's important, because you made it public, but that doesn't mean every single thing has to be, you know, public and vulnerable. Right. Yes, like I'm already putting myself in a vulnerable state by going, you know, and that's that big thing. Do you tell everyone and make yourself accountable that way, or you keep it secret and then go, and I've done the thing, like, you know, I've been working way behind the scenes to do that.
And that's a funny thing, actually, because when I first signed up to it, I wasn't sure whether I was going to make it public or not. And then the only reason I did was because I actually wanted to keep myself accountable, and by making it public, it meant that I was seeing it through, because I knew how big it was.
Yep.
So it's like, if I tell the world I'm doing it, then I have to do it.
Like,
there's no swims. Well, I'm pulling out. Nobody knows that I've bailed. Like, it's just, and I don't know. Like, sometimes I think there's pros and cons to both. Yeah. But yeah. And then Chris said to me, "Would you make it public next time?" And I said, "No. Okay. Next time it'll be a post after the event. Like, it'll be like, yeah, I actually did this." Because I generally don't. I mean, unless it's the Mother's Day Classic, or like last year the marathon, which I did a post about the day before, I generally don't make my races public until after the event.
Yep.
But I don't know. Yeah, I did and ah about it after I signed up, but I also wanted to document it. So I thought, because I created my Instagram account. Yep. I wanted to document the journey, and for me, really. But I was like, well, this is actually a good way to do it. And it was actually incredible, by making it public, how much support I got. I think in the end was really good. And even without completing the swim, the like I said, the messages of support and congratulations that I got was just completely overwhelming. Because, like a lot of people said to me, they're like, shit, Nick, because most people wouldn't even contemplate doing that. The fact that you even just started is amazing. Yeah. Gotcha. So yeah, it's been big, and I think that's an understatement. Mentally, emotionally, physically, just everything about it was just massive. And also, like, I remember in the interview we talked about, like last time we talked about how I was saying, the last 4 months would be really, because we were talking about, time management and stuff. And I said the last 4 months would be really challenging because, there's going to be more of everything. Yep. And I said, 4 months isn't a long time to be restrained for. It's like 4 months was a really long time. Like, it actually was, because, there was so much, I had to, book my babysitter and plan everything, make sure that I've got nutrition, and like on a Friday. So I would do my long run on a Wednesday, and then I have clients for the rest of the day. And then I had my long ride on the Friday. And when we got up to 80 and 90K rides, I'd drop off Chloe at daycare. I come back, I'm going to get my nutrition together and my hydration, put it all on the bike. I'm not leaving before at least 10 a.m., if not 10:30. Out on the bike for 4 hours, come back, put everything away, clean up, shower, day's gone. Yeah, totally. I done. Okay, I've gone for a ride. That's great, but I've got nothing else done.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you know that those last 4 months is I felt like I was only just scraping by with everything that I had to do. Um, so even though I'm still training 6 days a week, it's nice to have a lot of time back. And
Yeah.
because I'm doing things that I'm comfortable doing, I don't have the mental load that I
Yep.
had before. So my
Yep.
brain is now free to actually think about the other things that I need to do and have the
Yep.
time to do them. Because, you know, my long run is, you know, at the moment, 2 hours. I do that on a Friday, but I still got the rest of the day.
Look at you.
And mentally it's not that taxing
Time to
because
spare.
it's something that yeah, I've got brain space to spare and I've got time to spare. So it's yeah, so even though I'm still training a lot, it's not at the
Yeah.
scale.
You sometimes don't realize that when the bandwidth is slowly going away, like, you know, when you're ramping up and then it's slowly going, you don't realize how much bandwidth you've actually lost until you actually get it back again. You go, oh my God, that was, how do I even get
Definitely.
anything else done?
Yeah. And during a lot of those last 4 months, I was solo parenting as well because Chris was away for work a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm solo parenting, trying to learn to swim, train for a half Ironman, run my business. Yeah, it was a lot. I have no regrets though. I have no regrets. I just have to kind of see it as the thing that was and, you know, learn from it, which I did, and do it better next time because
So what
I
would you say
can't,
to others? What would you say? What's
I want to
your
say,
so someone says you've got a big dream and you say,
don't do
read
it.
this book because that
Don't do
inspired
it
me.
because at the end of the day, what have you got to lose, really? Like, you get upset, like, yeah, I was devastated, but what did I actually lose? Like, and how much did I gain? Like, I gained so much from doing that. And
Yep.
yes, it was hard. It was hard to swallow on the day. It was the hardest bloody thing I've ever done is to pick up and keep going after I got DNF'd. No doubt about it. So many arguments with myself, so much negativity that I had to squash out and everything. But what did I lose?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. I gained so much. So if you've got a big dream, just do it. What's the worst thing that can happen? It doesn't go to plan. Great. You're going to learn from it, right? So it goes to plan better the next time. I don't know. That's just me though. Like I don't know. I'm always all about chasing big dreams and it's I've never failed to this grandeur before, but even though I failed, I didn't fail, if you know what I mean. Like I
No.
failed in completing the swim, but I won in so many other ways.
Yeah. Oh, well
And
and truly.
it took a lot longer. Like I was expecting the thing to take about 7.5 hours, maybe closer, 7 3/4.
Yep.
But I ended up on course for 8 3/4 because yeah, it's the slowest half marathon I've ever done because I had to walk so much of it towards the last 10Ks.
Yeah.
But like even that, when you fail, that's when you learn the most, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
because if everything goes to plan every single time, you go, great, I'm so good at this. Woo! But when you have disappointment,
I've never had
when
that
you
feeling,
have
so I don't know.
disappointments, when you have disappointments and you have failures or big failures, whatever you want to call it. I actually haven't decided what scale that fail was yet. But when you have things not work out the way you plan them, that's when you learn the most from them. So if I had gone in and done a perfect swim and a perfect ride and a perfect run, then I would have walked away going, this is great. And that would have been amazing. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
have loved
yeah,
that.
totally. Yeah.
But like this will set me, even though there was so much that I've had to come to terms with, it'll set me up so much better the next time I do it because I've had that disappointment, because I've had that failure. I
Yeah.
think it will actually serve me well for the next event that I do because I know what it's like to fail and I know what it's like to pick up and keep going. you know, amongst the disappointment. So I think that'll make me a stronger, better athlete for the next one.
So even though you're not publicizing, what is the next challenge?
Oh, the next challenge. I don't care about publicizing the next thing, because it's the Gold Coast Half Marathon in 5 weeks. So yeah. Hoping for good weather. Last year, I have actually. I feel really good about this because I have really great memories from the event last year.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm going into it with so much positivity because I had such a great experience last year. Like it was, and I got very lucky because we had perfect conditions for the morning of the race. I don't know what it's going to be like this year, but you know, it was, and it's such a good atmosphere up there, and the course is flat. Like, you know, there's a couple of little bridges you can go up, but really they're nothing. So it's flat and fast, and it just like, and I felt amazing during the whole run last year, and yeah, feeling very positive going into it this year because I've got such good memories. So
yeah,
that'll be good. And then after that, this is a 50-50 thing whether I do it or not, but I'm signed up to the Melbourne Full Marathon in October.
Yep.
I say 50-50 because I just want to see how I feel in the next couple of months about whether I want to continue to build into a marathon or whether I just want to pull back and, focus on just strength training and, you know, obviously maintain my half marathon fitness. But I'm not 100% sure as to whether I'm going to do the full or not yet. We'll just I'll decide that as I sort of once I get past the Gold Coast event, and then that's it. There's no more races this year. The rest of the year is just going to be strength training, just swimming, strength training. Back to
that pull-up bar.
Yes, I got to get back. Absolutely. I've been doing strength sessions since 2 weeks ago. And the first session I did, I was like, oh my God, I'm so weak. But it's coming back. So it's good.
Oh, good. Oh, that's really good. Because when was the last time you did that sort of training?
Last strength session I did was start of January. So
then dropped off from there.
Strength training, it dropped off, because basically when we went to Tamworth, it dropped off because I was focused on the swimming, and when I got back, it was all about, you know, everything was getting bigger, longer, more intense. So there was just no energy or time really to do strength training. It was more time really. Yeah.
That you can't have more than 24 hours in a day. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. I think if I wasn't learning how to swim, I probably still could have maintained maybe one, possibly 2 strength sessions a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, extra time in the pool, it just wasn't going to happen. So
biggest learn was, what do you think at this stage? Because that sort of evolves a little bit. You know,
it sometimes does. I think biggest learn. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one.
That's
not sure.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot about mental recovery.
Yep.
Mental preparation recovery. How to overcome mental challenges on course, which I actually think I did really well. I'm not sure. I have to, there's so much floating in my brain about the whole thing that I don't think I could quantify it right now.
Yeah, sometimes those sort of things, you don't realize what you've learned until something else jags it a little bit later on. Like you go, oh, that's the thing that I've fitted in. I didn't realize I'd actually learned that lesson, but I can apply it here now. Yeah, that's what
possibly,
I found.
The need to have some open water swimming training before you go into a open water swim race. Do you know the interesting thing with that too is, like, you know, when you go to the pool and, you know, I go to the pool, I go, okay, I'm going to do 1.9 kilometers and it's 50-meter lots, right? And even though I'm not stopping, I'm following this black line going up and down a 50-meter thing. When you go out and you see the course marked out and you see the 1.9 kilometers in its entirety, you go, that is a long way. That is a long way, which you don't think about when you're doing it in the pool.
Yeah.
You don't see the whole thing. You only see what's directly in front of you, which is 50 meters.
Yeah.
So the thing I think I need to work on as well is just that because I'm sure that played into it as well. It was like, because I did get overwhelmed with the size of it. Like, seeing it all laid out, I'm like, oh my God, I've got to swim all the way up there and all the way back and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but you've done 1.9 in the pool so many times. Like, you can swim 1.9.
Yeah.
But just seeing it all laid out, it's a different mental approach to it, I think. So yeah, I definitely
because
need
it's
to
not
go
like
get some.
in the run or the cycle, you don't see the whole course from when you're standing somewhere. Like, whereas,
yeah,
I mean,
doing
what's in front of
but
you at the
also
time.
with running, like I said, running is my comfort zone. So even though I felt like absolute poo while I was running because, sick, underfueled, dehydrated, whatever, like I was, it's still my happy place, even though I felt like crap, it's still my happy place. I don't need to think about how far I have to go because I just do it. I mean, obviously when I do running races, I do have strategies on how I approach it mentally. Because I never think, and actually that's a really important one. I just realized it's like when I do like a half marathon, I never think I have to run 21 kilometers.
Oh, okay.
I think I have to do 4 times 5 with a little extra bit at the end.
Yep.
So I break it up into 5-kilometer lots and I go, so once I get to the first 5, I go, cool, that's a quarter done. Let's do the next 5. That's half done. Let's do another 5. And same with when I did the full marathon, I didn't stand at the start line and go, oh my God, I've got to do 42 kilometers because that's really overwhelming. I go, I've got to do 4 lots of 10.
Yep.
And that's actually screwed that up in the swim because when I stood at the front line, I went, oh my God, I've got to do 1.9 kilometers.
Look how far that is. Yes.
I actually looked at the whole thing as opposed to looking at the 50
little sections.
in front of me.
Yeah, totally.
Is that something that I need to learn and as I swim more is how to break the swims down so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming at the start.
You just make sure that your little kayak boy is at 500 meters, 800 meters. So you get into those points.
I've said this before, but he was that guy, 14 years old. Peter was his name. What a legend! Like honestly, like he was just so calm and so positive and so supportive, and never once did he remotely suggest that I should not keep going.
Yeah.
He was just like, there. Come on, you got this, let's go.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool.
Very grateful. Very, very grateful. There's a lot of, and that's something actually about the whole event is that every single person I met, whether they were a volunteer or an official or whatever, like everybody was just so lovely and so supportive and so encouraging. And I have so much respect for that event. Like, I mean, I had respect for it before, but I haven't done it now.
Yep.
Yeah, the respect for it has gone up, and also for the full Ironman, what they're doing is ridiculous. But yeah, it was amazing. Like I said, no regrets, an incredible experience. Yes, it wasn't what it was supposed to be, but it will be next time.
No, that's probably the perfect way to finish that, with no regrets. Like it just, and the fact that in the end you won. Even though at the time you're just going, this feels anything but a win, but it's.
Yeah, it definitely didn't feel like a win. I'm going to show you this because it's pretty cool.
This is it.
This is it.
Oh, there you are.
Even though I've taken 4 weeks to accept that I deserve this medal. Because it's very, very hard to accept that I deserve this medal because I didn't finish the swim, but I damn well deserve that medal because I kept going.
No, exactly. That is so awesome. That, as I think everyone was just overwhelmed by how just brave you were being, how committed, how excited you were by such a huge challenge, and you did the thing. You did the thing in the end. Like that was so cool. Like it was such a beautiful thing to see and watch and do, and to hear. And I knew you'd be suffering, but I knew after that suffering you'd see it for what it was,
Yeah.
But you have to suffer a little bit and go, do I deserve, But then you see, what I put myself there. I really did, and that's what it's all about.
I stood at the start line of a half Ironman when I had just learned to swim. So
yes, there's not too many people that can say those two statements in conjunction with each other.
probably not too many people crazy enough to do it. I mean, it would have been so much nicer to say I stood at that start line and then I conquered the whole damn thing, but it is what it is.
Considering where you were on that swimming, that like 7 weeks out and you were like in a big hole, like that was pretty bloody amazing. Like to as you know, like skill setting, you know, it normally takes 12 weeks like to then feel, but then you got to feel confident with the skill as well. Like that is such an awesome achievement. And then, by the way, Mother Nature decided the tide was going in the wrong way.
Blame Mother Nature. I tell you what, she's got a lot to answer for.
I've told you that story before.
We were talking about, Chris and I were talking about it, and I was saying, oh, I wish it was the other way. And he's like, no, because it's good because you get the hard bit done first and then you get the easy bit on the way back. And I'm like, that would be true if I was a better swimmer. But I think for me, like I said before, for me, it would have been a huge benefit for it to be the other way around.
Yeah, but just to get you into rhythm and
just to get me into a rhythm on the easier part, where I've got the tide pushing me along and, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe next time we'll get lucky with Mother Nature and, you know.
When Melbourne, when you're swimming across the bay.
Swimming across the bay, yeah. Maybe there'll be sharks next time. Who knows? I just got to be not last.
Isn't that with a predatory animal? Just make sure you don't have to be the fastest, just not the slowest.
Be faster than
That's when you do realize I can still run. I'm walking on water. Thank you so much for doing this. This is, I can't tell you how much I really appreciate you doing this and being vulnerable and telling your story. And it is a win. It truly, like to everyone else that has watched this, and I hope you definitely feel the same way, that is very much a win. The scoreboard mightn't say it, but to everyone else it is. And that was so awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.